Hello dear fans. What environmental disasters were the most devastating? For a long time, the most important enemy of nature has been called a person, through whose fault global environmental disasters occur. They cause devastating consequences that cannot be overcome for many years after the event itself. Any ingress of harmful substances into water, air, or earth negatively affects the environment, but there are also such disasters that the whole world recalls with shudder. Instructions. Step 1. One of the most devastating disasters, the consequences of which still affect the environment, occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant on April 26, 1986. One of the power units exploded 3 kilometers from the Ukrainian city of Pripyat, causing a huge amount of radioactive substances to enter the atmosphere. Until now, around the blown-up station, the damaged reactor of which is currently covered with a sarcophagus, there is an exclusion zone of 30 kilometers and there are no prerequisites for the region to become residential again. About 600,000 people took part in the liquidation of the consequences of the accident, who at first were not warned about the lethal dose of radiation. No one informed the residents of nearby settlements about the accident and the increased level of radiation, so they went out without fear to the mass festivities dedicated to May Day. Several tens of thousands of people are considered victims of the Chernobyl accident, and this number is still increasing. And the damage done to the environment is generally impossible to assess. Filming of many films about the upcoming apocalypse takes place on the territory of Pripyat, abandoned almost 30 years ago. Step 2. In 2010, on April 20 in the Gulf of Mexico, it was not the first time that the water surface was polluted with oil products. An explosion occurred on a large oil platform Deepwater Horizon, which spilled out a colossal amount of oil products into the ocean. This 152-day oil spill was the largest in the United States in terms of environmental impact. After the accident, almost 75,000 square meters. Kilometer. The Gulf of Mexico was covered with an oil slick, which resulted in the death of birds, amphibians, and cetaceans. Several thousand dead animals were found in coastal zones. More than 400 species of rare animals were threatened with extinction. States that had access to the Gulf of Mexico suffered enormous damage in both the fishing, tourism, and oil industries. Thanks to the well-coordinated work of many services, the consequences were eliminated about a year and a half after the accident. Step 3. The Bhopal disaster, which occurred in the early morning of December 3, 1984, in India, was the largest in terms of the number of human casualties. Almost 42 tons of toxic fumes were released into the atmosphere due to an accident at a chemical plant in the city of Bhopal. 3,000 people died on the day of the accident, another 15,000 people years after the accident. The number of victims of this disaster could have been fewer, if not for the high population density and the small number of medical personnel. In total, from 150 to 600,000 people suffered from the accident, according to the estimates of various organizations. The causes of the Bhopal accident have not yet been established. Step 4. Another environmental disaster that occurred on the territory of the former USSR was the death of the Aral Sea. For a number of reasons, including weather, social, soil, and biological, for 50 years, a salt lake without fresh water recharge was almost completely dried up, although it was previously considered the 4th largest lake in the world. The main reason is considered to be the wrong policy of irrigation of nearby lands, due to which the lake's tributaries dried up. At the bottom of the former lake, salt deposits were found with admixtures of harmful substances, pesticides used in agriculture. Strong winds generate dust storms that slow or disrupt the growth and development of crops and natural vegetation and are harmful to humans. In addition, on one of the former islands in the Aral Sea, which is now connected to the mainland, there used to be a laboratory for testing bacteriological weapons. The remaining viable bacteria buried in the soil, thanks to the rodents living there, can cause anthrax, plague, smallpox, typhus, and other diseases. Step 5. In the 70s to 80s of the XX century, another major environmental disaster began, the consequences of which are compared with the Chernobyl accident and the disaster in Bhopal. In Bangladesh, a large-scale project has been developed to provide residents with drinking water. With the help of UNICEF, about 10 million wells were created to provide the population with drinking water. But all the water was poisoned by natural arsenic. The indicators of its content in water exceed the norm by tens and hundreds of times. Almost 35 million people use this water, which provokes the development of cancer, skin and cardiovascular diseases. So far, the problem of water purification from arsenic has not been solved in any way. Thanks for watching.